Scripture shows that. It says, "Eye has not seen nor ear heard the wonderful things that Yahweh has for those, who will reverence Him, who will take on His perfect righteous character." And it's been only offered to those whom Yahweh is calling at this time. And He's called out a group of people throughout history. He has called out certain individuals, one out of a family, two out of a nation, a town, three or four out of a nation, in order to not give them this job, but to give them the opportunity to qualify for the job. And this is what we're having to do right now. We're proving ourselves, as Pastor has mentioned already in this sermon. We're either going to prove ourselves fit for this kingdom, or we're going to prove ourselves unfit, one or the other. There's no middle ground. And Yahweh has given us everything that we need to succeed. Our great overseer taught us every single thing that we need to completely qualify, to fully qualify for the position that Yahweh has in store for us. All we have to do is study to prove ourselves, and prove ourselves that we're going to be faithful. We're going to prove to ourselves that we have knowledge, that we can govern ourselves. We have to be able to govern ourselves and to control ourselves before we can be trusted with anything else. If we cannot properly govern ourselves, how in the world can we properly govern a family, let alone the microorganisms? If we can't control our anger, if we cannot exercise self-control, when if we're given the power and the authority to completely annihilate or wipe out or reform or whatever the planets or beings or whatever, if we don't exercise self-control, who's to say out of a fit of anger, out of an emotional outburst, we wouldn't wipe out an entire civilization? See, this is the testing that we're going through, to see how do we handle these little things. Are they going to fester? Do they grow within us? Are we allowing ourselves? Are we judging when we're dealing with others? Are we dealing with others based on emotion? Or are we using the only righteous judgments on the face of the planet, in the entire universe, throughout all of creation? We have to remember that these laws, statutes, commandments, and judgments that we're given to live by, this covenant of Yahweh, this is what governs all of creation. And we have to prove ourselves obedient to that law. And the Scripture even shows that they will have proved themselves, obedient. And the day that they go forth, they will have proved themselves obedient in your law. And this is what we have to prove. We cannot afford, Yahweh cannot afford, and let me put it this way. He will not allow anyone that has the character of Satan to enter into His kingdom. It's just not going to take place. And because we see the hell, we see everything that has been created on the earth right now, how all of that what it has brought forth. So this is why we have to be, we're being proved. Now, one of the main subjects of this sermon is that the Pope is the man of sin. So the Pope is the man of sin. He's the leader of the kings of the earth. The kings of the earth, this is the system that they follow. They follow their own laws, their own system, based on emotion, doing what's right on their own eyes, right in their own eyes, pleasing in their own sight. They push aside the righteous judgments and the righteous laws of Yahweh. Oh, you don't have to keep those old laws. Those laws are the only thing that will bring peace to the universe. And this is what we find in our own lives. When we keep these laws and when we practice these laws, we experience a peace, a peace within us. It's very peaceful. It's really hard to describe, but it's other than peace. There's peace in following these laws. scriptures that we've referred to and gone through, and I think there's probably some more that we'll be going through. But 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 7 through 8, Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 to 25, Hebrews 10, verse 16, Exodus 19, 5 and 6, Psalm 110, verse 3, and then Psalm 119, 17 and 18. Vocabulary. We've gone through all of the vocabulary words, just a reminder of what they are, because you will be seeing them later. When you pick up your test, you will be seeing those. The man of sin, of course, is the Pope. The lawless one is that adversary, is the adversary, or Satan herself. To reveal simply means to disclose or to take off the veil. It means to open up, or it means to show. Perdition. And we spent a lot of time on this perdition. This perdition is a prophesied destruction. It's a judgment that has already been set. It's not that an individual has been set aside for destruction, because we're still, as Deuteronomy shows, we're free moral agents to choose between righteousness and evil. Therefore, we're instructed to choose life so that both you and your children can live. But there is a prophesied destruction, a prophesied judgment that takes place when we violate. There's consequences to violating the law. Just as there's blessings when we obey, there's consequences that come from disobedience. And I don't want to call it a punishment, because it's not really that, but it's a consequence. It's a consequence that comes about. If we break this law, if we break the laws concerning certain things that are written in Leviticus, if we violate the laws concerning the consumption of unclean food, of unhealthy relationships, unrighteous relationships, however you want to look at any one of Yahweh's laws, there are consequences that come when we go outside those laws, when we violate that. And that's this it's a prophesied judgment that takes place. Okay? And as we saw, Yahweh, those judgments are set. Yahweh doesn't change. He says, I'm Yahweh, I change not. But these laws, he doesn't relent, as we saw back in Psalm 110, verse 4. He says, Yahweh has vowed an oath and will not relent, nor will he change his mind. It's not what the Catholic Church tells you. The Catholic Church says, oh, well, Mary can appease him. Mary will just go to Jesus, and Jesus will certainly honor the words of his mother. He certainly won't deny her request. This is part of the lie. This is the lies that they teach. Remember, the scriptures are talked about as an insurance policy. We covered that analogy. It's as an insurance policy, and if the things are not written in that policy, they're not going to be honored. Remember, the insurance policy covers those things that are written, and I think, as Pastor put it, not on those things that are promised. But again, we have the written covenant. It's an agreement. So we see that. That's in Yahweh's 613 laws. And so we left off on page 381, the top of page 381, and we were talking about one of the last part of the last things that we were covering last week was, don't grow weary, keeping our mind on the goal. When we're going through this testing, we have to go through this testing. It's necessary for our upbuilding, and for our proving, and for our benefit. And then we see that there is a book also that's being written about us. It's either going to testify on our behalf, or it's going to testify against us, and it's based on what we're doing, what our choices are. And on the top of page 381, the left-hand column over here, verse 97, if you're following along, in Yisrayl says, and it shows, yes, they made mistakes, but probably not half as many as us. Yet we try to judge them guilty instead of using Yahweh's judgments. Remember this when you're judging. We're told to use Yahweh's judgments. And, let me see here. Did I mess up my... Yeah, give me a hot second here, guys. No? Okay, no, there we are. We're right. We're right. Yachanan 7:24. we're told to do not judge according to appearances, but judge righteous judgments. And this word appearance means the way that someone or something looks. It's just on the surface. A way of looking that is not true or is not real. And you think about what Yeshua said concerning the scribes and the Pharisees and the hypocrites. Look over to Matthew chapter 23 here, verses 27 to 28. And we see here, woe to you scribes, you Pharisees, you hypocrites. And this is why we don't judge according to these appearances. He says, for you are white like whitewashed sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside they are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness and this rotting flesh. And think about what's inside a tomb. You put a dead body in a tomb. What does a dead body do? Well, it rots. It gets returned back to the dust of the earth. But they put it inside these stone tombs, and inside that's all you see is the dead men's bones and this uncleanness. In the same way, he shows here in verse 28, you appear outwardly righteous to men, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and the breaking of Yahweh's law. In this side note G12 here, it says, you seek how to get esteem from men and don't care whether you're righteous or not. You're looking to be men pleasers. You're looking to be man pleasers. You're looking for this outward recognition, not striving to be righteous, not striving to please Yahweh, which is what we should be striving to do. And this is what he's talking about here. But we need to make sure that we judge righteous judgments, use Yahweh's judgments when we consider these things. It says, remember this. I said, what did Yahweh do? If you don't know, then you haven't read the life of David and know that he's going to be in the kingdom. He won't be one of the 144,000 priestly kings, but his love isn't what kept him from achieving that. What we saw in Thayers is what I brought out last week. Yahweh is proving us true at this time. We have to keep our mind on this goal. We have to, even when we're going through the tests and the trials, we need to kind of look, okay, why am I going through this? We have to believe all that the prophets have spoken. We have to believe what our great overseer told us and taught us repeatedly throughout the scriptures. The world doesn't know what you know. They don't know what their purpose is to be here. They don't know what their purpose is in life. They have a fantasy where they think they're going to be floating around on a cloud playing a harp in the kingdom. And the pastor has talked about that many times. He said, how boring would that be? But that's not something that's supported in the scriptures at all. Hey, go back here, verse 98. Highlight this next sentence here. He says, we can't start letting ourselves abhor these judgments and statutes of Yahweh by not performing and upholding all of these laws. And your highlight right there. Remember what we covered last week and the week before about how nasty that word abhor is and how nasty that word detest is. They're very evil connotations, very evil meanings. And when we don't perform these laws, this is exactly how we appear. We are considered to abhor these things. And he continues, he says, this is a test. This is the test that we are under to see what we will do. Yes, we're going to face adverse situations. We're going to be put in uncomfortable situations. Do we give in to the crowd, follow the crowd in doing evil? Do we fall back into the ways of Egypt, the ways of sin, the ways that we were brought out of and cleansed from? Or do we continue to persist and do what is right? This is what we're being tested on to see. Are we going to follow these laws or not? And men, the more we follow these laws, the more determined we are to follow them, the more that we practice them, That builds that character. That builds those righteous pathways within our minds, that this is going to be the automatic way that we're going to go. We're not even going to be tempted by these things. Verse 99, we're in it right now. We are in it right now. We are wearing the kippah to prove to Yahweh that we are submitting to our head Yeshua. If we are submitting to our head Yeshua, we are going to have the love and compassion that he had, because the law is going to develop within us. It takes time. The laws of Yahweh are perfect, remember, converting the whole person. It's not an instantaneous thing. Conversion takes time. If you've ever done anything with video editing or anything like that, or switching over or converting music files or files from one format to another, you know it's not instantaneous. It takes time. Depending on the processor speed and the memory and all of that of the computer, it takes time. And some of us, our computers run slower than others. And it takes us a little bit more time to get that conversion down. But the point is, we're continuing to process. We're continuing to work toward that end. And that's the point. That's the key. You know, there's a scripture, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but it mentions, and I've got it highlighted in my book of Yahweh, but it mentions the path of the just is like the beginning of dawn, is like the dawning of a new day. You know, when the sun begins to rise, it takes time. It's gradual. You can't see it if you're staring at it. If you're looking in the east, if you're watching the sunrise, you cannot notice. If you're staring at it constantly, you can't see the change in the colors. You don't see it because you're constantly there. You're constantly looking at it. It's so slow, it's imperceptible. But turn away, look away for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then turn around and look, and then you notice, oh wow, look at that change. That's how it is, men, with our conversion. We need to continue and persist in doing righteousness. The conversion is taking place. If we've got that patient persistence in doing righteousness, it can't help but produce that fruit of conversion. It will convert. We will convert, even though we might not necessarily see it. If we look at where we were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever we first came to Yahweh's house, and look at where we are now, we should see a tremendous difference in our attitudes, in our knowledge, in all of these things. And this isn't anything to build ourselves up or to be quote-unquote proud of, but notice the difference and know that the process and the change is being made. If we don't see any change, then we need to get with our counselors, seek counsel, and see what it is that we need to do to effect this change. It's that important. Verse 99, let's see. Pastor continues here in verse 99. He says, we're going to teach this same way and uphold Yahweh's laws, even if we have to lose everything. Our trailers, cars, and yes, even our wives and our children. Whatever it takes, brethren, to get there, it should be worth it to us. That's something that we should value. And many of us have lost jobs, have lost family members, might have lost property. You know, who knows? But it doesn't matter, because just as it was in the book of Job, you know, whatever was given up, it's going to be given back tenfold, 20-fold. I mean, we haven't lost anything. Okay? We haven't lost a thing. We're gaining everything. Okay? So when we get this in our mind, we think, oh man, I've lost this, I've lost this. No, look at what we're gaining. We have to look ahead to see what we're gaining. Look at Romans chapter 8:18. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which will be revealed in us. This is the promise. This is a promise of Yahweh, that the sufferings are not worthy to be compared with that glory that will be revealed in us. No, because it's, you know, again, we're moving through this whole conversion process. In, let me see, Matthew 13, 44 to 46. Again, the kingdom of Yahweh is like a hidden treasure hidden in the field, which when a man has found it, he hides it again, and then in his joy goes and sells all that he has and buys that field because of what is hidden there. And again, the kingdom of Yahweh is like a merchant looking for fine pearls, who when he found one pearl of great price, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. In Matthew 19:29, and everyone who's forsaken houses, brothers, sisters, father or mother, children, or lands for my name's sake will receive 100-fold and will inherit everlasting life. Look at G5 there. It says, the peace of mind which Yahweh's children feel even in their afflictions is 100-fold more worthy than all of the worldly treasures. Treasures. Let's go one more here. Let's look at Job 13, 15, 21, and 28. It says, man does not comprehend wisdom's value. And this is what it's speaking of. Wisdom, that pearl of great price, is that wisdom. Man does not comprehend wisdom's value, nor is it found in the land of the living. No, in the land of the living, the people out in the world, they don't have this wisdom. It can't be purchased with gold, nor can its price be weighed by silver. It can't. Now look at that G1. It can neither be bought for gold, no precious stones, but it is only the gift of Yahweh. And of course, this is speaking of understanding. And the reverence of Yahweh, what is it? None of the wicked will understand, right? But the wicked will understand. So the reverence of Yahweh is the beginning of this wisdom. It's the beginning of this understanding. In verse 21 now, it's hidden from the eyes of all the living, and it's concealed from the birds of the air. Then to mankind, Yahweh said, behold, the reverence of Yahweh, that is wisdom, and to turn from evil, that is understanding. Think of what he says. Think of that verse there. The reverence of Yahweh, that is wisdom. And to turn from evil, that is understanding. And the side note there shows that he declares that man has so much of it, this heavenly wisdom, as he shows by reverencing Yahweh and departing from evil. That's Proverbs 1:7. And that is, of course, those who are called and those who pursue and seek this way, to take hold of this knowledge that comes forth from this house. It's not taught anywhere else. And so the people that do that, there is no wisdom in this world. There is no wisdom in this world whatsoever. Okay, so if we continue on here. Pastor shows here, he says in verse 100, he says, I know then that there will be no such thing as divorce in the kingdom. It will be totally wiped out. I know that one day soon there won't be prisons. He says, when we were visiting the hellholes, the prisons up in Oklahoma a few weeks ago, I told those prisoners, these prisons won't be forever. We're going to destroy these prisons. And then cross-references there, if you want to look at Isaiah chapter 61, verse 1, Isaiah 49, verse 9, and Isaiah 45:13 for cross-references there. Then Pastor shows, he says, there was a guard standing not too far from us, and the prison chaplain, who had very much cooperated with us, he actually transported another prisoner, a prisoner from another prison to us so that we could baptize him. And then he and the guard were both standing there. They didn't want to interfere, but they were trying to listen to what we were saying. And I noticed out of the corner of my eye, when I was telling them about destroying the prisons, these two men started walking our way. He says, and then I quickly explained, he says, not right now. When the kingdom of Yahweh takes over, then all prisons are going to be destroyed. Then the looks on their faces changed a bit, and they went on cooperating. And then Pastor, he shows, there's not going to be a need for them. There won't be a need for them. In verse 102, Pastor shows here, he says, it is a fact that there won't be prisons once this thing takes over, once Yahweh's kingdom, the 144,000 priesthood and those working with them take over, you are going to completely cover the earth. The radiation and the junk like this, that's Satan's way. That Satan's way will bring upon the earth to make it uninhabitable. Notice he says it won't bother you. The radiation and the contamination, he says it's not going to bother you. He says you will have the power to keep the flesh from completely being destroyed. That's something that was taken from Satan. She no longer has that power to create and maintain flesh, remember? That was one of the stones that was taken from her. That ability, that power to create and maintain flesh, that was taken from her. But those who qualify, we're going to have that authority. We're going to have that power. He says, you're going to be working with fleshly beings kept alive by blood throughout the millennium. You will have to power to keep them from being destroyed, because the earth will be completely uninhabitable at that time due to one thing. Notice the one thing that causes the earth to become inhabitable. Rebellion against the 613 perfect laws. It's the rebellion against these laws that's going to result in the earth becoming uninhabitable. You're going to be given the power to control flesh, to control life, and to completely cover the earth. It's going to take billions of people to do this. That's a promise. You're going to completely inhabit the earth and control everything, as one scripture says. When someone starts to go wrong, you're going to tap him on the shoulder and walk behind him and say, this is the way, walk in it. This is the way that will stop this hell from ever taking place again. And for your notes, you can put down Isaiah chapter 30, verse 21. Psalm 119, verse 20. Pastor says, I've gone through all of this trying to explain what he meant in Psalms. We are groaning for this to take place, for the man who Yahweh prophesied. Our souls are consumed with longing for your judgments. We're tired of the aches and the pains. We're tired of seeing the injustice, the injustice on the earth, the unrighteousness on the earth, the consequences that come from breaking these laws, and the curses that result from that, from the birth defects, from the people in prisons, all of these things. We're tired of seeing that. And this is why we've come out from among this world. We've come out from among them, and we're separate, says Yahweh. We're learning these righteous judgments so we can teach these righteous judgments and teach those who come to Yahweh's house what they need to do in order to prevent this hell from ever taking place again. The judgments that are being rejected by the world at this time are the judgments that we long for. In actual fact, that is what is bringing harm on the world at this time. Lucifer and the world that is following her by deception, our souls are groaning because we're in misery night and day. This morning somebody said to me, maybe we should fast 40 days and 40 nights. Pastor says, well, I don't know if we could stand it. I don't know if the house of Yahweh could stand it in the shape that our bodies are in at this time, from eating the poor nutritional foods that we have to eat just to survive. You know, this world is contaminated. You know, how many times do we hear pastors say, you know, a carrot doesn't even taste like a carrot, doesn't even look like a carrot. In no way tastes like a carrot used to taste. You know, the food, you know, the animals, the plants, it's all contaminated. The water is even contaminated. Everything is contaminated. Half of us are sick already. Of course, we would probably get healthier if we fasted for a little while. I've read of people who have died after 30 days, and I would never ask anyone to do that. I know the pressure that is being brought on us now. The pressure is on. Okay? Satan knows that she has but a short time. So she's turning up that heat. She's turning up that fire. She's turning up the pressure. The little squeezes are turning into they're turning into, okay, well, that little squeeze didn't seem to do too much. Let's put this thing in the vise and let's crank it down. And that's what they're doing. That's what's taking place. The pressure is getting more and more because she's doing everything she can to stop you, to stop us from succeeding. She wants to derail us in any way that she can. The plan of Yahweh shows that no, this house is not going to be put in the grave. There are going to be those who will be these upright pillars like we see holding this roof up. There are upright pillars in this house. There are many upright pillars in this house. And these upright pillars will be standing until the end and will be able to witness Yeshua at his coming. It's all in Yahweh's plan. Unless Yahweh has a plan for us to take a little nap and take a little rest, if that's in Yahweh's plan, then we can enjoy that little rest. But it's also in the plan for certain individuals, for people to stand and to witness, to be a witness to what nuclear war brings, what the ultimate result of sin brings. And to witness the rolling back of the clouds, to witness the magnificence of Yahweh and the protection that Yahweh has and the fulfillment of this part of the plan of Yahweh, the end of the 6,000 years and the beginning of that millennial reign. There's going to be witnesses who are going to see that and testify to that throughout all eternity. Boy, that's an awesome thought. What would it be like to be one of those that would qualify to be able to see that and to be able to witness that? Can you imagine Yachanan coming to you and say, what was it like to see those clouds rolled back? Or Daniel, what was it that the two men, one on this side of the river and on that side of the river, what were they saying? What did all that mean? And they're going to be seeking out this great nuclear age. Pastors brought that out. He saw that in his visions, in his dreams. And he relayed that to us. They're not cute stories. It's a reality. And men, this should be encouraging to each and every one of us. Yahweh's plan, again, will not fail. The only way that we won't be a part of it is if we give it up. Hold fast that which you have, that no man, no woman, nobody take your crown, because we can give it up. It's the only way they can get it, is if we choose to give it up. We have to be steadfast, stand in our place, and make sure that we allow no one to take that from us. Pastor, again, he says, maybe we could do it, maybe you could just fast one day this week, if you can do it every other day. Build your body up for it and get used to it. We're going to call for a fast for the house of Yahweh. Hopefully all of you will be willing to struggle and contend together with us in this. We've got the Day of Atonement coming up. We need to be preparing our minds, our bodies, and our minds for that 24-hour, for that fast. Remember, it doesn't just start that day. We have to go through this preparation process for that. And Pastor talked about that and many times in many different sermons about what atonement means. But right now, brethren, verse 107, we are weeping, we are mourning, we're groaning because the judgments of Yahweh are not being used. The judgments of the gods are being used. The laws of the gods are being used. And the laws of the gods and the judgments of the gods are trying to end this work. They are going to fail to end this work. It might look as if that this work is going to fall, but this work is not going to fall. Yahweh promises that. They are passing more laws every day and filling more prisons every day. They say, surely we need more laws. We need more armies. We need more bombs. These things have never solved anything. More prisons has never reduced crime. What do? They find reasons to fill them up. What about wars? Well, we need bigger armies. Well, does bigger armies bring peace? It never has. The bigger bombs, the atomic weapon that was dropped, the weapons that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, surely that stopped all wars. We don't have any wars going on now because of, look at those bombs that were used. We got more wars now than ever, killing more people than ever. All they've ever brought is more hell. They think we need more laws, and so they go and pass more. Or they build some more bombs. It's just a regular merry-go-round of stupidity. I like that phrase. It's a merry-go-round of stupidity, because that's what it is. History from the beginning shows that they've continued to do these very things, and all they've brought forth is more trouble, more hell to the family, more suffering, and more grief. How long will it take before the world will finally see that what they're doing is bringing the hell in the world to begin with? We're groaning, and our souls are mourning for Yahweh's judgments because his laws are being broken. Yahweh shows that it's going to take, what's going to wind up doing it is all hope of life is going to have to be wiped out. All hope of life is going to have to be gone. And mankind is going to have to reveal that before he steps in. Verse 17, deal bountifully with your servants, Yahweh, so that we can live and keep your law. Verse 18, open our eyes so that we can see the wondrous things from your law. Yahweh has to do this. Then if we rebel against it, we close it like that. Our understanding can be taken away in an instant. The ability to process the new information can be taken away in an instant. Then you know what takes place? Dying, you will die. It's not necessarily all of a sudden that the understanding is gone, but the understanding leaves slowly but surely. And the cares of this world and the deception that is in this world slowly encroaches and slowly takes over. It's like if you don't maintain a lawn, you don't maintain a field, you don't keep the weeds out. If you neglect it, the weeds and the undesirable things encroach upon it and take it over. Highlight this next sentence here. We quench the spirit, Yahweh says, by rebelling against it. In your highlight right there. Remember, Yahweh says, none of the wicked will understand, but the wise will understand. That is, he says, when we start hating his statutes and rejecting his judgments. Look at 1 Samuel 15:23. Look what Yahweh says. Look what is written here about rebellion. Because rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is the same as iniquity and God worship, that is the worship of Elohim. Because you've rejected the word of Yahweh, he also has rejected you from being king. The side note there, G2, says, Yahweh hates nothing more than the disobedience of his commandments, though their intent never seems to be beneficial in the eyes of man. Now think about that. It's the disobedience. It says, because he rejected the word, he's also rejected you from being king. If we despise Yahweh's judgments, if we abhor the statutes, the judgments, the commandments, if we abhor or despise those things, and it's through simple rebellion, that is practicing witchcraft. It's not going out and dumping a bunch of unclean things in a cauldron and stirring it up and cackling in the forest with a pointy hat and all of that. That's foolishness. But ignoring the statutes and the laws concerning the consumption of clean and unclean foods, any one of Yahweh's laws, that is as that sin of witchcraft. And that stubbornness is the same as iniquity and God worship. And it says, again, he says here, because you have rejected the word of Yahweh, you will be rejected from being king. You will be rejected from inheriting the kingdom of Yahweh. You will be rejected from inheriting the gift of eternal life even. It's much deeper. It's much deeper than just what was being told to Saul here. because it applies on a much deeper level here. Verse 19. Pastor tells us here, he says, we are strangers on the earth. He says, and we are. Everything we do, every law we live by, they abhor. They hate. They detest. They despise it. They think continually evil about anybody that practices any of these laws. He says, we brought out the most two hated laws of all concerning, according to prophecy, and bringing forth, showing the man of sin. We revealed the man of sin. We revealed the system of sin. We continue to do that. This house continues in the message, continues in the very commission that was given to our great overseer. We're continuing to preach and publish this message, to preach and publish the evil that is in this world, to expose it. And it's reaching some. It's reaching all. It's reaching the entire world. No other era has ever accomplished what this house has accomplished and continuing to accomplish. It couldn't. It had to be in the time period of the last days when knowledge would be increased. The technology had to be there to allow the reaching throughout the entire world. There was no way in the days of the prophets, of Yeshua, of the disciples, that they could go to every single place on the planet, on the face of the earth. It couldn't be done. You see, it was for a specific time period. And if you believe the prophecies, then you know that this is the exact time period that we're in right now, and that this house is fulfilling this very commission. Verse 112 here. If you're in Yisrayl it says, Pastor says, now we are going to fulfill the next prophecy just before his coming. Yahweh says, because it's next. And it says, then the wicked one herself will be revealed, which is what we are doing. We are slowly but surely taking off her veil. We are showing what her actions bring and what she actually is. Why do you think the hatred? Why do you think the testing? Why do you think the trials? Why do you think the pressure is coming against this house? She's trying to put a stop to it. She wants to remain hidden. When a liar is confronted, they lash out because they do not like being exposed as being a liar. Well, Satan doesn't like being exposed for who she is. The churches don't like being exposed for who they are and who they worship. Even when you point it out directly out of the scriptures and point it out to them. Look at the examples. Remember the examples that Pastor gave. His brother-in-law taking his precious King James Version Bible and throwing it at Pastor when Pastor pointed out of his own scriptures that what he was doing was incorrect. Verse 19, we are strangers in the earth. Verse 20, our souls are consumed with the longing for your judgments. We should abhor, absolutely abhor and detest the judgments that we see in this world. The laws that are in this world, the laws that benefit few and come against the many, because that's the way they're written. The laws in the land are not written for the benefit. The laws of the land aren't written for the benefit of everybody. They benefit some while harming others. Yahweh's laws are not that way. There is one law for the believer and one law for the unbeliever. There, for the believers and for the Gentile, one law for all. And in that law, it specifically tells us, we're not to be a respecter of persons. So the law applies equally. If we're applying Yahweh's judgments the way they should be, then we should be applying them equally. And this is what we're practicing. This is what we need to be practicing. Go back and examine ourselves. When we judge a matter, When something comes across our mind, when we're told something, are we thinking law, or are we letting our emotions run away with us? We've got to keep that. We have to keep that in mind. We've got to keep the emotions in check, remember? Verse 21, you rebuke the proud. Pastor says, not at this time. They're reigning free. They're reigning over all of us. Part of this rebuke is correction. Part of the rebuke is correction. And correction does go forth from this house. But, it's interesting because the world, they're just ignoring it. They're reigning free. They're not going to be pinned down and say, this is what you need to do. This is the way that you're going to do, or you're not going to have any reign. This is what's going to take place during the millennial reign. Pastor showed that in the Mark of the Beast. That the nations are actually going to have to be forced to keep the law of Yahweh. They're going to have to be, that is what is actually going to have to be done. Right now, no. The correction's going out, but again, they're not going to be forced. They're not going to be forced until that millennial reign, until this kingdom fully takes over. Verse 116, I was talking to one lady who had been falsely accused. See, what they want is your money. This is what is behind it all. This is the root of all evil. For remember, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, money is a root of all evil. She was falsely accused, and they took her to court and said, well, you can pay this much now, and we can let you out of this charge. If you will just pay this $1,000 or $1,500, we'll let you out. Maybe they will tell you, or they won't even put this on your record. They're going to be really good to you if you will just plead guilty and pay this fine. This is how the system of the world, this is how the justice system of the I'm going to use that term loosely, the justice system of the world works. They conduct plea agreements. Well, if you plead to this, then we'll give you this. Or if you do this, we'll do this. There's certain aspects of the system that are designed specifically to make money. Oh, well, if you just take this, then we'll put you on probation. And it won't even go on your record, but you've got to pay this fee, this, you got to take this class, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and this, and this, and this. I know of an instance where an individual called somebody and was asking this individual, said, look, if I just violate my probation, how much time am I looking at if I go to jail? How much time am I looking at? Because they've got me paying a probation fee, a supervision fee, a fee for urinalysis, a drug class fee, this fee, and this fee. And it was like $1,000, $1,200 a month. He said, I can't support my family on that. And they will let you go. The justice of the way the justice is in this system, they will let you go until the very last month, until you're just getting ready to finish and be free of everything. And they'll come up with a reason, well, that you almost made it, but you did this one little thing here, and for that we're going to go ahead and send you to jail. After they extort, I say extorted, and that's what it winds up being, if you want to be honest about it. It's all about the money. It's all about the almighty dollar. This is what has been reported to me anyway, that this is what it's about. And Pastor continues here. He says, a while back I got a speeding ticket. I don't know. It might have been speeding. I don't know. I know he was wrong, though, because I knew there was no way the man could have paced me through that particular zone going that speed. I took the ticket up to the judge, but the judge didn't even want to see me. I told them I wanted to plead not guilty, so I did. The district attorney or the prosecuting attorney started showing me how much I could pay and how they had these easy terms to pay the ticket off. Oh, we'll make it easy on you. I said, y'all really kind to those violators, aren't you? He said, oh, yes, Mr. Hawkins. We try to be. I said, well, that's just marvelous of you. And he thought I was going to plead guilty, see? And so he says, come right in here and they'll fix you up. They'll take your money. I told him, no, I'm not going in there. And I wanted to see him in the other room because I was not guilty, as I told him to begin with. And this lawyer said, oh, well, you can't beat this. There's no way. We have all of it right here. I told him, still I want to see the judge and talk to him. Well, Pastor says, I did beat it. Yahweh beat it, in fact. The judge said in the end, well, I think the state has failed to prove its case. Now, notice what Pastor shows here. Very important. He says, that probably won't be true in every case. They will probably keep coming at us and coming at us. And yes, they do. They keep coming at us and coming at us and coming at us. You know, the only thing we can do is to make sure that we're right in everything that we do. You know, make sure that we submit to every ordinance of man. If you drive a vehicle, make sure you have your registration up to date. If the speed limit is 65, make sure you're not doing 75 down the road. Make sure you're not doing 70 down the road. Make sure you're not doing 66 down the road. Because technically they can pull you over at 66 and issue you a citation for that. Be above reproach. Don't give mankind, don't give anybody any reason to come against you. Now, if they want to come against us because we're keeping the Sabbath, because we're following the law of Yahweh, if they want to come at us for that, okay, that's righteousness. They're persecuting me for righteousness. If I'm doing 90 miles an hour and a 65, I'm not being prosecuted for righteousness. I'm being prosecuted for speeding. Okay, there's a difference. Don't bring anything upon us. Okay, don't bring anything upon ourselves. Remain above reproach. That's what we're told to do. By the way, Pastor says, he says, have you noticed there's an extra amount of policemen in the streets at this time? They need money. They're not getting enough from the taxes that they're trying to bring in. They're trying to bring it in other ways. Obey the laws. If I would have just kept reading, a pastor would have said it better than I did. But obey the laws. Don't break any of the laws. Drive slower if you have to. That would be better than getting a ticket because they are after you. They're looking for a reason. Don't give them a reason, men. We don't need to make their job any easier. We need to make it as difficult for them as we can. Okay? Verse 21. You rebuke the proud, those accursed who have strayed. This is not now. There is a time coming when he will do this. Who have strayed from your laws. Verse 22. Take away from us reproach. There is a time coming that it will be taken away from us. And this law, he shows, and this law will be fulfilled. I could go into many scriptures showing you when this will be done. Take away from us this reproach. Take away from us this reproach and contempt, for we have kept your testimony. Look at 1 Kepha chapter 5, verse 8. I actually missed this. But Pastor shows here, he says, be sober and be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking who she can devour. You know, this is what she's looking for. She is looking for that. We have to be able to, we have to be above reproach. Verse 23, corrupt princes, corrupt rulers, judges, and lawyers and judges sit and speak against us, but princes meditate. Uh, um, let's see, let me go back here. Your servants meditate on your statutes. We meditate on your statutes, Yahweh, while these corrupt princes meditate on Lucifer's laws. Verse 24, your testimonies are our delight, not the laws of the land. His laws are our delight and our counselors. That is what Yahweh's laws are to us and what they mean to us. One day soon, we are going to be taking over the laws of the land and all governments of this land. Then Yahweh's laws will reign supreme, and there will be no more suffering and no more tears and no more sadness. I want you to look here in Revelation 21:4. And Yahweh will wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there will be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, nor will there be any more pain, for the former things have passed away. This is why we endure the suffering now. This is to get to this point right here. Daniel 7:27. And then the kingdoms and governments and the whole greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be given to the people of the saints of Yahweh, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all governments will serve and obey him. And Pastor closes, he says, Yahweh bless you, and I will turn the services back to the song leader. So that concludes, men, chapter 42 of Going On to Perfection. Slowly but surely, we're coming to an end of this Going On to Perfection, and then we'll be getting into the next book, which is, boy, that's something else too. They build one on the next on the next. It's awesome the way that these books were inspired to be put together. Okay, we all know it's test time. If you're here in the sanctuary, tests are right down here at the table, up front here somewhere, over there. If you're out and about, if you're away from Abilene, you can request a test, and one will be emailed to you. You can see that information up there. Send it to the House of Yahweh Abilene at gmail.com, and notice the spelling of Abilene. And make sure you put MBYCC as the subject so it gets routed correctly, okay? And then, was that it? Oh, I guess that's it. That's all. I thought I had one. I thought I had one other slide behind that, but I don't. So that's actually it, men. Yahweh be with you. Yahweh bless you. And if everyone will stand, we'll go ahead. We will close in prayer. Great and merciful Father, whose awesome name is Yahweh. Father Yahweh, once again, this is your servant, Yisrayl Hawkins, asking permission, Father, to come before you in unity with the body of priests, our pastor and overseer, the great Yisrayl Hawkins, and through Yahshua Messiah, high priest over the house of Yahweh. It is with great joy, Father, we do come before you. We praise you and we thank you once again, Father, for allowing us this opportunity to be a part of your house in these last days. We pray, Father Yahweh, that you continue to bless us, Father Yahweh, that you continue to strengthen and guide us, Father Yahweh. Help us, Father Yahweh, in our efforts in overcoming sin, Father Yahweh. We pray and beg for your protection, Father Yahweh, from the sickness and the disease and the violence that's in this world, Father. And we beg and pray for your protection also from the deception that is in this world. Help us, Father Yahweh, to continue to develop this perfect righteous character within us, so that we can, Father Yahweh, be these upright pillars, Father Yahweh, these righteous pillars in your house, Father Yahweh, that will be upright throughout all eternity, Father, and counted worthy to serve you and your people forever. We do give you all glory, honor, and praise, Father, and thank you for all of our daily needs. And we do ask all these things, Father, in the name of your Son, Yeshua Messiah, and the seed of the witness, Yisrael, and unity with the body of priests. Hallelujah.